Bring order in the chamber. Let's bow our heads, please. Our most precious Heavenly Father, be with us tonight as we do the business for our people in Benson and for the government that we are charged to protect. And be with us and lead us into the way that we do business and guide us in the things that's on our agenda tonight that we have to deal with. We want to do things that's pleasing in your sight. And think about the people that are going through the virus and with all the things that's happened under the pandemic. One of our good friends from Dunn is one of the mayors is going through it now. And we want to remember him and have him in our prayer. Be with us. Take us home safe, and we leave here tonight. And bless in everything that you say and do. In God's name we pray. Amen. Let's stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May be seated. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Any discussions? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. I'll introduce Scott Tart to introduce the new hire.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Board of Commissioners. It's my pleasure to be here tonight to introduce Dylan Rhodes. He is our new public service specialist in the Public Works Department. He was not able to be here tonight, but we are proud to have him on board. The final thing I'll report to the board is that we have had one Public Works member leave last week to pursue another opportunity. So if you see the job posting still up for public services specialist position, that's the reason it is still up. So if you do meet Dylan out in the field, please make him feel at home here at the town of Benson, and welcome him on board. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Anyone that wishes to address the board is asked to come forward. And the ones that are here for the public hearings, you only have a chance to talk then if you want to. So this is for anybody that wants to talk about something else. Anybody coming forward? The department reports or in the packet is any of the board that has questions about them, or the people here that can answer the question. No question about the department reports. I'll ask Aaron Joseph to come forward. We'll have a public hearing on RZ 2021-01.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. This evening, I'd like to present to you case RZ 2021-01. It is a rezoning request for a 0.25 acre tract located at 203 West Main Street, and the applicant would like to rezone the parcel from R6 single family residential to B1 central business. The property owner is Robin Whitley Hood, and the petitioner is Miranda Lardwa. The current uses of the site is vacant, unimproved lot. You can see in the aerial photo here the site location highlighted on the screen. It's located just behind the Valero gas station that's located at the intersection of South Wall Street and West Main Street. These are a few photographs for you. The site, you can see it's vacant, and this is the Valero gas station. Also see on the screen to your left is the current zoning map showing that the property is on R6, and the surrounding zoning districts include residential and commercial. We have commercial fronting 301, B2 residential, general business, and going further west on West Main Street, you have residential, and at the corner lot there, it's office residential. And to the right, you'll see the future land use map. And this area has been identified on the future land use map and in the comprehensive land use plan as Activity Center 4 or the Downtown Activity Center. which intends to provide a mix of uses such as residential, commercial, and institutional. No industrial uses are planned for this area. So the request is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. However, you can see it just at the tip of that 301 sign there, that the property is identified as high-density residential. So it is inconsistent with the future land use map. If the rezoning succeeds this evening, the future land use map as well as the current zoning map can be amended.
Gotcha. Currently under RC, C allowed to have commercial property on that property. And I think there is a drop off that's closed.
There is, there's nothing in the ordinance that states that it cannot have commercial dumpsters. They're probably from the Valero, station, so.
Well, they've been back there since I used to work on L16, golf ball fixed it back then.
Yeah, they've probably been there and no one has bothered them. We have reached out to, the clothing drop boxes, because sometimes they can become unsightly when people dig through them. So we've had to send them letters about cleaning it up or removing the box. So they pretty much kept it in good order, since we reached out to them about that. So some of the uses that are allowed in the B1 Central Business District are general neighborhood, business, office, retail, general service, vehicle service, restaurant, and gas station. And the development ordinance identifies this district as a district that's intended to foster a vibrant, soft, safe town center, encouraging residential, commercial, office, institutional, cultural, entertainment uses and activities. And so it is designed to promote the town center. And as you can see on the current zoning map, if you look east towards Main Street, the zoning district that is primarily central business district is in our downtown core. You can't see it on this map, but the district goes about to the parking lot, the town's parking lot, at South Elm Street in East Main, and then a little over at the railroad tracks in Church Street. So that's primarily where you will find the central business district. Now, the planning board heard this request last week and they did not recommend approval, and they voted 9-0 to recommend denial of this request. I as well do not recommend this request as B1, and I explained to the planning board that while the area in the request is consistent with the future, with the comprehensive land use plan, and it identifies that area for a mix of commercial and residential, the B1 Central Business District is here, and the development standards for B1 are more appropriate for the downtown district. And you have this parcel adjacent to residential zone properties. And so in the B1 Central Business District, setback standards are reduced. The landscaping requirement is exempt in that district. And even the signage ordinance exempts the B1 Central Business District from having illuminated signs during the hours of midnight to 6 a.m. I did suggest that a more appropriate district would be the B2 general business district, which is here to serve the residential and support the residential communities that surround the B2 district. But B1 is more appropriate in your downtown district. And so as you consider this request, you will want to consider all of the uses that are allowed in the B1 district and not just a specific use. And so you have to weigh that balance.
Aaron, explain to us what the future land use plan is.
The future land use map, and you have it cut out there on the screen, is taken directly from our current comprehensive land use plan. So you'll see in the yellow there on the screen that yellow with the dots on it is identified as high density residential. So multifamily, more density in that different types of housing types, and more housing units for that area. So smaller lot sizes essentially to get more housing units in a smaller area. And so the B2 serves more as a transitional district into the residential neighborhoods, whereas the B1 is really for your downtown district. Even though the comprehensive land use plan does identify this area that it can support the central business and neighborhood business or general business uses. But looking at the Unified Development Ordinance, looking at the lot that if you put a B1 right next to a residentially zoned property, you don't necessarily have those same restrictions to serve as a transition into that residential district.
Me, so it's B1 right now.
No, it's zone B2.
Any other questions of Aaron? We don't have to swear the people that speak.
No, anyone wishing to speak, they'll just need to state their name and address for the record.
We'll open public hearing. RZ 2021-01. Anyone that's in favor of this case, please come forward, give your name and your address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vic, so I run that radio station and the next one as well. So we applied for this rezoning. So as
Could you give your address?
yes, ma'am. 100 South Wall Street.
Did you speak? Did you finish?
Yeah, I just got to.
Okay. Anyone else?
So as Aaron explained that it's maybe inconsistent with the future plan, but still it's good with the comprehensive. So if you consider this rezoning application, so we will try to comply with every aspect like buffering or whatever is good for the neighborhood. So we will try our best to meet the whatever the requirement for the town. And apart from that, if you see the transformation from my point of view, both the stores, so we will keep everything in whatever we require. So that's what my expectation is. If you consider this, then I will try my best to comply with everything.
And in talking about, putting a car wash there, how would you dispose of the water?
There's a drain at the back side of the building, so we can connect it with that one. So we already checked with one of the town team members, so we have a point that we can connect over here. There should be no contamination to the any of the sewer that's not compatible.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'm wondering about the traffic on that road, because I know during the week, trying to get through the stoplight right there, with traffic coming off 27, I'm just wondering how your car wash would affect the traffic.
They're gonna enter from 37 from that side, and it's gonna go to the either to the 301 south, or it's gonna go back to the 27 towards.
If I may interject, just keep in mind that this is a general rezoning, and so you don't want to look at any particular specific use. You want to try and look at it from all of the uses that are potentially there. So nothing is in stone that a car wash could go there. If it is approved as a B1 district, vehicle service, it would be allowed, but you also have other uses that could go there, and it's not bound to any one particular use.
So since we had a meeting on my behalf at 100 South North Street, so there was no one opposed for that, even in last meeting from the neighborhood. So apart from the planning board, in the neighborhood area, there was no one opposed for this rezoning. That's it. My side.
Anything else? Thank you.
Yes.
Anywhere about in favor, come forward.
How y'all doing tonight? My name is Brandon Gordon. I live at 204 North Palmer Drive, and I'm just simply here to say that I support the rezoning of this property. I'm here to do the same thing across the street, so I hope to see Benson strive for a better future instead of just kind of stalling like we have been for a little while. I would like to see Benson grow and develop. So I support it.
Anyone else come forward to speak in favor? No one else coming forward? Anyone that has come to speak against? Anyone come forward that is against? I close the public hearing. RZ 2020-2101. I'll entertain a motion to the board's wish.
Gentlemen, I have one question. Yeah, this is for Aaron. Has nothing to do with the specifics, but is a car wash allowed under B2?
No.
It's only allowed if it was on BB.
Yes, vehicle service is only allowed in the B1 and B3, I2, I1 district.
Even if it's these hand wash detailed arrangements that we have all over town, that has to be under a B1.
Correct. The only way that a car wash could go there would be as an accessory use to the gas station for the Valero, but the ordinance stipulates that it has to be an automatic car wash. And that is allowed with specific standards in the UDO, and that's the only only car wash operation that could go there as an accessory to that property.
Now, the hand wash or the detail shop, which is, I think, set up now, what it used to be the old T-Mart. I don't know what it's called now, but they've got the bay still there. They do for it. Is that being done?
No, it's B2. So all of our, if you look at the, if you can kind of see on 301 a little bit further down where you're mentioning, can't really see it on that map, I'm sorry, but it those properties are zone B2, where you have Vic's Exxon station at Dunn and East Main Street. It's B2. They've been existing, I don't know how long, so they've likely have been grandfathered in as a non-conforming use. But if those uses were ever to cease, then that they would not be able to allow it to continue.
I want to ask you one question also. Again, this is getting into specifics, but what drainage are we talking about over there? I wasn't sure when he responded to that. Is there some type of drainage? Is this a system that accommodates the station that's there, or is this some system of drainage that accommodates?
I'm not aware of any particular drainage system that that exists at that lot. It's a vacant lot. So there are any specific drainage system. I don't know about it. It would, and that is something that you have to consider when you're looking specifically and what our ordinance says about stormwater, which we are working on that right now. As far as what we stormwater ordinances, that would be the concern of the runoff from car washes getting into the storm drain systems and getting into natural water sources. But our ordinance doesn't specifically address that and put specific standards for a car wash because we don't have a stormwater ordinance in place. But that is something to consider as far as runoff from car washes and how that is properly cleaned and then are able to go into the storm drain.
So any of these existing businesses that we have now swing the storm drain?
Yes. Go ahead, Wade.
Hey, Aaron, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can. How are you?
Doing good. I appreciate y'all letting me join on tonight. But I guess I'm going to follow up on these questions a little bit. If B2 is supposed to be the buffer between our downtown and the residential, that's what our current management plan or future plan is stating. Could we not meet this intent somewhere with a special use permit that if it's on the B2 and apply for a special use permit for that specific purpose?
Not a special use permit, but in our text amendments that we adopted in December, we now have conditional zoning as an option. However, the applicant would have to provide a site plan. They would have to any conditions that the town and it would have to be agreed upon between the property owner and the town, and it would limit any uses, and you could place conditions on that conditional rezoning. But at this stage, the applicant chose to do a general rezoning. But we do have that option as a conditional zoning, but you just have to do more work up front. You have to provide more specific details. You have to provide a site plan, and that it's a hybrid of zoning and special use or conditional uses, because with a general rezoning, you cannot put any conditions on it. It's a legislative matter, but with conditional zoning, you can put conditions on it, and it still serves as a legislative matter, legislative hearing, so you don't have the evidentiary hearing findings of fact requirements, but you can still place conditions. But the property owner, the town, has to come to an agreement typically before the hearing. All of that needs to be hashed out, clearly stated. So there's a little bit more work to do up front. If the applicant and the property owner, they know specifically what they want to do, if they want to put in that work of doing that, that's certainly an option for them.
That answers your question, William.
Yes, sir. So if I understand that correctly, there, if because this doesn't meet our future plan, if we move it to get that specific, that condition, that's something.
Yeah, so if, let's say tonight the rezoning is not successful, he can apply in 6 months for a B1 conditional zone. And that will essentially create a brand new zoning district specific to that property. Whatever is approved in that conditional zoning runs with the land, and those are the only uses that can ever be on that site unless it gets rezoned again.
6 months waiting for you.
Yes.
That's it, it's only for you, that's what it
You would have to amend the you would have to
What was your
amend the
question, ma'am?
ordinance.
is. It's a 6 month set in stone, is that something we can change?
You would have to amend the unified development ordinance through a text amendment. That's the only way the text can be changed, and you have to hold a public hearing.
What if we were to withdraw it now and not have a vote on it tonight?
I'm sorry, what was that?
If he were to withdraw his petition or request now without a vote, would he still be subject to a 6 month period?
If he withdraws, I don't believe so. That may be a technicality, because the way the Unified Development Ordinance reads is that 6 months from the date of decision, you have to wait. That 6 months has to expire from the date of the decision. So if he withdraws his account with his application without you all rendering a decision, he likely could come back. The earliest he could come back would be May, and then he would have to provide very specific details and conditions, and the property owner would have to agree to those conditions, because once that is done, it runs with the land, and it can't be changed until it's rezoned.
So, let me ask you, so could he withdraw tonight?
If he would like to withdraw, I believe he can. There's nothing that's stopping him that says he can't. I would like to review. I don't think there's anything procedural that would stop him from doing that, or he could withdraw his application. He could have modified his application as well, but he didn't want to go that route. So if he would like to withdraw, I don't see why not, and then resubmit as a conditional rezoning, if that's something that he would be amenable to. I think he could very well do that.
And then start the public hearing.
Yeah, so he would have to submit. We would, that upfront work. This would be our very first conditional zoning since we adopted those changes in December. So, it would take, us going through that process with him very closely. There will be conditions, that the town will place. We would have to make sure that we get that, in writing administratively, be very clear, very specific about what those conditions are, what constitutes a minor modification that can be approved administratively, and what requires a rezoning back at the board level. So we had that, and that's exactly why we added that option to the ordinance. It's just more time consuming, and all parties have to agree on that.
What's the wishes of the board?
Would you like to?
Well, let me ask you, could we continue this?
Yes, we can continue it.
Well, I make a motion that we continue it and let him talk with whoever he needs to talk to at Robin Hood, well, whoever, Robin Hood, and let him come back with a decision next month. That's my motion.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I want to say, I like this, I like Aaron's approach to it as well. Maybe this is our first opportunity to address this. But it seems to me it's going to give us a little bit more flexibility with what we're doing with property. It gives you a lot more oversight. It answers some questions that we may or may not have about drainage and some other things that we can work out in the interim period of time. So still allow him, and I applaud him because the business looks really good. There's been a lot of work done over on the gas station. It looks much nicer than it has in a long, long time. If he's willing to expand, I would love to see us accommodate him if we can do that.
Yeah, that's definitely, and I think it's a great tool that the board, that you all put that in our ordinance, as an option for folks. Because right now, like I said, the B1 district has exemptions because of the nature of the B1 district, central business district. But then you could very well put those conditions in there that, you can't have illuminated signs between 6 and 8 midnight and 6 a.m. You have to have additional buffering. You have to do this. You can be very specific in your conditions.
There's a motion on the floor to,
Revisit this next month and give him an opportunity to check it.
all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. And delay.
Go to case number
2021-02. Let me, I want to close, RZ 2021-01. Close. Now we'll open case RZ 2021-02.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. This case was a request to rezone a tract of land, 7.9 acres from B3 highway business to I1 light industrial. It's located within the extraterritorial jurisdiction, and it is owned by Kevin and Kimberly Price. You said it's located at 150 North Walton Avenue, which is just off of Morgan Road. You can see in the image there, the site is highlighted, and you have Morgan Road runs behind the site, and you have I-95 that runs to the north to the site. Right now, it's the current site of Dynamite Trailers. It's a commercial use vehicle sales. And you can see a couple of images of the site. This is, with Walton Avenue. You have the current zoning map on the screen. The site is currently B3, but there is a small portion of the property that is currently zoned I-1. You can see in the area, the surrounding zoning districts are light industrial, B3, highway business, you have B2 as well, one parcel is on B2, and then you have residential agriculture. So you do have a mix of uses, industrial, residential, commercial. You have Hamlin Sheet Metal, it's just to the south of the site, Schumacher Homes, and to the east of the site, you have a auto repair vehicle sales service. So the future land use map identifies this area as commercial. It is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan. It is consistent with the future land use map. You do have industrial areas in industrial zone areas in that area, so it will be consistent with the surrounding zone, current and future land use zoning. And the uses in the I-1 district include office, general, vehicle sales, service and repair, self-storage facility, restaurant, gas station with convenience. Our Unified Development Ordinance intends to promote the retention and growth of employment opportunities in this area, in this zoning district, with a broad range of industrial uses that could locate there. It should be operated in a relatively clean, quiet manner, and should not be obnoxious to nearby residential or business districts. And you do have the approval criteria on the screen. And in your staff report, I have provided just an evaluation that is the impact to the adjacent property owners and the surrounding community reasonable. It is, the impact to the adjacent community is reasonable, as many of the existing uses located in the vicinity of the site are non-residential in nature. It's compatible with the existing land use classification. This classification of a commercial node is meant for activity centers for growing areas. Area includes locations for employment and economic development opportunities. It is compatible with existing land use. It's not a small scale or spot zoning, because we do have industrial zone properties I-1 in the district. The planning board voted unanimously to recommend approval for this, and staff recommends approval as well for this one. That's all I have there. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? There. Go to the public hearing. Anyone that's in favor of RZ 2021 ISO 2, come forward.
Mr. Mayor, Board of Commissioners, my name is Kevin Price, 150 North Walton Avenue, Benson, North Carolina. And just wanted to come out tonight and say we really appreciate the opportunity to continue to grow our business right here in Benson. And, I tell you, we've had some success over there, and we're ready to go to the next phase. One thing came up this week, hate to bring it up, tax time, and we did our taxes over here. We spent $8 million to a company, a manufacturer in Georgia, to bring those trailers back to our lot here in Benson. We spent $420,000 on shipping alone just to get those trailers back to our lot. And I just told my wife, I said, we're right here at 40 and 95. We can get anything brought here. We feel like we have the people that we could put a small manufacturing facility over there and build those trailers right here at our own facility and keep that money right here in North Carolina. But not just North Carolina, right here in Benson. I think it's going to be a positive thing all the way around, and we're looking forward to the opportunity if you see fit.
That's great, Kevin.
Appreciate it.
Does anyone have any questions, Kevin?
Actually, I haven't done my trip.
You do, sir.
I enjoy it very much.
Good to see you, sir.
Good to see you too. And so how many people do you think you would employ?
I'll tell you, we know it's gonna start on a little bit smaller scale, but we feel like we can get 10 to 15 people on the start. But just to let you know, we definitely have some long-term goals, just like with what we've done out there already. We're looking to expand. We realize it'll take a little bit of time, but we're looking at the big picture of as soon as we can produce more trailers than we can sell, which is what we're shooting for. Because keep in mind, there's not one manufacturer in the state of North Carolina that also wholesales trailers to other dealers. It's done every day down in Georgia. And for some reason, everybody says, hey, you probably heard the phrase, I'll go down to Georgia to get my trailer. Well, we think we can get some of that market right here because, and grow this thing because those companies down there end up with 60 to 125 employees at the facility. And we're not just looking at what we can do here local, but we're looking at outside here at what we might be able to sell. If you think about the dealer in Virginia, New Jersey, wherever, they're running trucks already right down 95 weekly, sometimes daily, just like we do, to pick those up. They're coming right by our lot. And the easy part for that is if it costs us $1,200 to go to Georgia and back to Benson, if we can get that kind of quality product right here, man, he can save on every trip. I mean, I just think our location and the logistics end of it makes sense. So that's why I say we just really feel like it could grow given a little bit of time.
Thanks a lot, Kevin.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Anyone else want to come in favor?
Doug Owens, the 207 West Church Street. I just want to speak briefly on this. I had kind of a catastrophe a while back. I borrowed a trailer from a friend and blew a tire and tore up the side of the trailer, tore the fender well and all that sort of stuff off. Pulled in the woods and got a new tire put on. I said, you know, what anybody's around here, you think I might get it worked on? He said, well, you might go over there and try dying my trailer. I said, well, they're open on Saturday morning. He said, yeah. He said, they usually out there till about midnight every night working. I said, well, I'm gonna ride on out there and talk to him. I went out there the first time I met Kevin. He took the trailer, fixed what I asked him to fix, and then went through it, replaced a bunch of lights and did all that stuff, and only charged me for what for the wheel well basically that he put on there. First class people. I hope you'll support him until they're asking.
Anyone else in favor? Now, anyone that's opposed? Anyone that's opposed? We close the public hearing. Entertain a motion from the
I would like to make a motion that we approve. So I gotta read that. I can't really see it.
Okay, the Board of Commissioners adopts the statement of consistency and finds and determines that case number RZ 2021-02 is consistent with adopted goals, objectives, and policies of the town of Benson. It is reasonable and in the public interest, hereby granting approval.
So you need me to read that.
What she said.
Oh, I can't remember all that. Okay, the Board of Commissioners adopts the statement of
Okay, your
consistency.
staff report, if it's hard to see it from here.
Well,
Just make sure you capture that we adopted the statement of consistency
Okay.
and
So, I'm
and
not-
determined that it's reasonable. We
Okay.
met our.
you got it. I
do.
make a motion. Okay, I make a motion that we, adopt the statement of consistency.
Any other questions? All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, case RZ 2021-03. We close it in RZ 2021-02, and we're open in 03. Okay.
we are headed back to intersection of, North Wall Street and West Main Street. The applicant Brandon Gordon has requested to rezone two contiguous parcels of land, located at West Main and North Wall Street, from OR and R6, single family residential, to B2 neighborhood or general business. Currently, both lots that are highlighted on the screen there are vacant, unimproved lots. And so the one that is closer to the North Wall Street and West Main intersection is currently zoned OR. So kind of gives you a image facing North Wall Street there, both lots. And like I said, one parcel is zoned office residential, and parcel B is zoned R6. And surrounding districts and uses are residential and commercial. We have commercial fronting on 301 and residential going towards further west on Main Street. This again falls within the Activity Center 4, and the area has been identified as commercial, and then the one lot is identified as high density residential. So again, you have it is consistent with the comprehensive land use plan, that one lot being identified as residential and consistent with the future land use map, but it does identify as commercial. And B2 general business is office general, neighborhood retail, restaurant, gas station with convenience. B2 is here to serve your residential, surrounding residential adjacent properties, small scale commercial uses, offering primarily convenient shopping to adjacent residences. And it requires that operations are low intensity, unobtrusive, and conducted at a scale and density compatible with the surrounding neighborhood. The planning board heard this request, and the motion to recommend denial failed with a 5-4 vote. So ultimately, it was a vote to recommend approval, but the way the motion was presented and second properly, a motion was presented to recommend denial and properly second. However, that motion failed at the planning board meeting on a 5-4 vote.
Does anybody have any questions, Larry?
I'm trying to understand. So the motion failed.
Yes, the one planning board member, after deliberations, after hearing from the adjacent property owners, put a motion out that to recommend denial, that it is inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan, and that the request is not reasonable and in the public interest. And another board member seconded that motion. And when the vote was called, 4 members voted in favor of that motion and 5 voted against it. So that motion failed. So they ultimately did not recommend denial because the motion failed on a 5-4 vote.
Any other
They
questions?
were about split on it. They were about split on it. But
And they don't turn around and do a motion to approve and
No.
say that 5-4.
no, we didn't do a motion to approve because it's a recommendation to you all. And so They only put out that vote, after deliberation, but it failed. So
Well, let me ask you, can you send it back to your board? Can this board send it back to you?
if you so choose to, you can either deny the request, approve it, or remand it to the planning board. If that's what you would like to do. Staff recommends approval for this request. After evaluating it, I believe that the impact to the adjacent property owners and the surrounding community is reasonable, and the benefits of the rezoning outweigh any potential inconvenience. The subject properties are in the vicinity of non-residential development on 301 corridor, and the requested zone to commercial will not have a negative impact on the surrounding community. Is the request compatible with the existing land use classification? The comprehensive land use plan does identify this area as appropriate for commercial uses. And this request is a little different from the first that was just across the street, because they are requesting a B2, which would serve as a transition into that residential district, and the uses would serve the adjacent community. So we did feel that it is reasonable, it's compatible with the surrounding uses. It would not be a situation of spot zoning or small scale zoning, because we have commercial uses in the area of the downtown district right across 301. We have B2 general business already on 301 to the north and the south.
Anything else for Aaron?
Could you give an example? I know we talked about this, and I should know it off the top of my head. Give us an example of B2 again.
Sure. So B2, we have office general, we have neighborhood retail. Let's see, I have the permitted land use table, so I can give you even more of what's permitted by right, commercial uses that are permitted by right in the B2 district. And some of them overlap with the office residential. And so you have a artist studio gallery, you have food truck, funeral home, gas station with convenience, indoor recreation, you have office general, office medical, you have restaurant, retail neighborhood, you have self-storage facility, you have neighborhood service, and veterinary and animal hospital are all permitted by right.
Any other questions? I'll open the public hearing on RZ 2021-03. Anyone in favor, come forward.
Good to see y'all again. My name is Brandon Gordon, 204 North Palmer Drive, Benson. So I'm here today to get this property rezoned. Just to give y'all a little bit of history about myself, I have a real estate license I've held for almost 2 years now. I'm in the process of getting my pilot's license, and I own a business, Silver Point Industries Incorporated. I'm 23 years old, and as I said, I'd like to see Benson grow, which is one of the reasons I'm here tonight. One of the reasons that we chose to choose B2 is because it is consistent with Benson's plan, and I'd like to not have to cut any more grass personally. So I'd like to just see something different happen with it, and it build up instead of just leaving it as it is. When we were at the board meeting last week, there was a lot of comments, and to sum up, the comments I heard were more selfish comments. It was more worrisome about their own property and not the as far as how Benson and the community can prosper. So all I ask that you do tonight is please think about the community and You know, as that is concerned, we want to see it build and not stay low. That's all I have.
Talk to many neighbors.
He did.
We have not, we weren't required to have a neighborhood meeting, so it just wasn't something I did. It's not something I'm against at all. So if the neighbors would like to have a meeting, my number is, on a billboard right on the sign, so they feel free to call me anytime. There is nothing that we have, distinctive that we want to put on the property. Like I said, we asked for B2 because it's consistent with Benson. And, there was a lot of talk of what ifs and what could go there. I mean, anything under that could go there possibly. We don't have any particular business we would like to put there. We would just like to see the movement start happening. And we've been here once before. When I was a kid, we tried to have it rezoned and it got denied. And I'm here as an adult now to try and help for my youth and for the town of Benson to hopefully make a change.
Thank you. Anyone else that's in favor, come forward. No one else in favor, come forward. Anyone that is opposed, come forward.
Hello again, Doug Oglesby, 207 West Church Street. I'm here speaking for myself and my wife, and also for, I said this at the planning board the other night, I'm speaking for my neighbors, Rayvon and Becky Best. They wanted to be at the planning board meeting. They couldn't be at the planning board meeting because Becky's sister Gloria went into hospice care. They can't be here this evening because they just buried Gloria this afternoon. But at the funeral, Rayvon asked me if I would be able to go to this meeting tonight. I said, yes, I would. We bought our house in 1987. We spent a lot of money on the house, and that house is basically part of my retirement plan, if you will. One of these days, when we stop working, we're both still, even though we're close to retirement age, we're still working, but we probably will downsize at some point in time. And, I am concerned about the value of my home and what something like this might do. We're zoned R6 and we're adjacent property. One of those properties is zoned R6. One is zoned OR, office residential. What I'm going to read to you right now is right out of your zoning district, right out of your rules and regulations. OR is intended to accommodate modest scale professional occupations along with single family and multifamily residential units to serve as a neighborhood activity center and as a transition between residential and more intense commercial uses. That's your rules. OR is a transition. I'm not talking about a buffer, which may be 10 feet, 20 feet, whatever. OR is intended to be a buffer between residential and more intense commercial area. That's the way it is. That's the way it was when Mr. Gordon purchased the property. The zoning hasn't been changed. It was zoned that way then, and it's still zoned that way. What they're asking for, and I'm not entirely against something going there, but what I don't want is a restaurant that's going to be working through the night, a gas station that's going to be, pumping gas up till 11 o'clock or midnight, right there next to my property. I don't want the noise. I don't want the smells. And I fear the impact that it could have on my property. Yes, I'm being selfish, but I've lived in that house from 1987. I deserve a little selfishness, I think. I'm not sure how many years ago they bought their property, but I've had mine a long time. I just don't want high traffic, late hour business going there. Maybe this is another area where we could have some kind of conditional use. I mean, I wouldn't be opposed. In fact, if I had the money, I'd love to buy the property from them and build some mixed use things where you had condos on the top and retail businesses on the bottom. I would not be opposed to something like that. I wouldn't be opposed to a doctor's office. I wouldn't be opposed to many other things, but I don't want what B2 grants them. Carte blanche to do whatever they want to do within these guidelines. And I hope I hope you won't do that. But moving forward again, still working within your rules here. Some of this is kind of process issues, if you will, that I think didn't happen. This isn't the applicant's fault, but anyway, there were no neighborhood meetings. He wasn't required to have neighborhood meetings. This is the third time this has come up here. It's been contentious every time. It's been turned down twice in the past. Why in the world wouldn't you have neighborhood meetings under those circumstances? It just seems like it would. Knowing that, it seems like you would have neighborhood meetings. And maybe we could come to some agreement on a use that the neighborhood and these folks could work with. The last thing that I wanted to say, I think some of this stuff is subjective. I don't know if Aaron wants to put it up there, but the approval criteria. Can you put the approval criteria up in the board? Okay. Consistency with the adopted plans and policies of the town. It may be in with your land. It may be in with your land use plan. But if you look at your zoning regulations and what R6 is, what OR is, and what B2 are, I think it's debatable whether it's consistent with both the plans and the policies of the town. Now, again, it doesn't say this above that, but in your policy here, it says approval criteria. No rezoning may be approved by the town board of commissioners unless all of the following criteria are satisfied. 100% all. Every one of those things, it says, have to be satisfied in order for you to approve this request. Your planning director thinks the first one it meets it. I'm an adjacent landowner, and I disagree with it. I think your policies, it doesn't agree with your policies, I say. And then I'll move on down. Number 4, adequate public facilities, roads. Again, high traffic areas, somebody's already talked about. You know, depending on the type of business that goes there, a lot of in and outs have to be, I'm sure would have to be, before they did anything, that would have to be approved by DOT. A lot of asphalt or concrete, stormwater drainage. Again, this is number 4 up there, I think. That's another thing that would it impact it? I mean, we've already got areas of Benson that are flooding when we have a heavy rain. But the last 2, number 6 and 7. Again, this is your criteria. It has been determined that there will be no adverse effect upon adjoining property owners unless such effect can be justified by the overwhelming public good or welfare. I mean, is a gas station going to be overwhelming good over the neighborhood's concerns? It has been determined that, and in number 7, it has been determined that no one property owner or small group of property owners will benefit materially from the change to the detriment of the general public. I'm just the general public. I'm part of the general public here. I'm not all of it, but I'm part of it. And I say this is to my detriment. If you rezone this B2. Now I'm willing to work with them. If they want to come in and look at something conditional, if they want to ask for a special use permit to do something, I'm willing to do it. I just don't want what B2 allows them to do. It just lets them do anything. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else opposed? No one coming forward. We close the public hearing. What's the wishes of the board?
I want to say, Mr. Gordon said that he was willing to talk to the land with the property owners to work it out. And Mr. Rogers just said that he approved it all. I'm wondering, can we table it again and let them see if they can work something out?
The Commissioner, Randy, I certainly agree with you. I think there should be some talk between both parties. I really do. So with that in mind, I think it should be a public hearing from the residents of that.
May I make a comment?
Yeah.
Okay, so, all this, speaking that's happened, they had no opposition to the gas station that was right across the street, which is adjacent from the property as well. There was no, it's within the same ring. They had no opposition to it, not one word. Now, it is only this property that has had so much controversy, and I honestly ask, what is all the controversy for? The talk was that his property value could diminish. I'm a real estate agent. Your property value could also go up by tenfold. It could go up more than it could ever go down. You couldn't guarantee yourself, sir. And in this type of economy, we need to look at growth and business. Everything he speaks of in his house, I agree. We do need to take the community into account, which is one of the reasons my name and number is on that sign. He had no willingness to reach out to me at all. He knew that the property was going up for rezoning, and yet I did not get a call. If he had called me and asked to have any type of conversation, I would have been glad to conversate with him. But what I hope that will not happen is that y'all delay again based off of communications between myself and himself. He said that he speaks for the general public, for himself and one or two neighbors. Well, I'm right down the road, 2 blocks from this property, and I speak for myself. And of course, I speak for Devin Harris, Jared Jones, and all the other youth that are starting in these businesses. Colby Jones is also a man of my age that is trying to come up, and would like to see something happen with this property. We've done holiday type demonstrations that a lot of the public believe Benson did, and they outpoured a lot of positive notifications about that. But little did they know, me and my family did that at the expense of thousands and thousands of dollars to make these things happen. So we're not here to diminish anyone's value. We're not here to put any type of cap or limit on anybody else's property. We ask that nobody do the same to us.
Young man, in the first place, I'm not debating with you.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, my motion is we table this and they have a meeting.
If I can speak to the neighborhood requirement, the Unified Development Ordinance does not require a neighborhood meeting unless the request is inconsistent with the comprehensive land use plan, which this request is not. When the applicant, and I always do this, because I know the history, and recommend that you might want to talk to the adjacent property owners because it's a good idea, but I can't require you to do it. But you certainly can to help yourself. So this, and also again, the conditional rezoning is an option, but you have to know specifically what you want to do up front. Applicant has stated that he does not know what he wants to do, which is fine because we're considering all the uses. This is a general rezoning, and so he's met those requirements.
One thing, I understand totally you want to be able to use your property. I get it. You know, what you said to start with is that you were willing for them to call you and talk to you. And because you don't have anything that's set to go right now, that's time critical, I'm with the other commissioners where I don't see why you can't make everybody feel. I think you're willing to do it. I'm sure you're a reasonable person. I'm sure it's going to be reasonable. I'm sure y'all can work something out. I'm just saying, What do you think of the
No, we have no intended use for the property, so I'm open to a discussion. My next question would be, what would the discussion be about? Because we don't have any specific use for the property itself. If there was a specific use, I could fully understand it, and I do agree with it. But like I said, we have no specific use, so there potentially, really, as the facts lie, there's nothing hurting or helping this property because there's nothing there to go. We're just simply asking for a rezoning. If we have any business or anything we would like to put there eventually, then we would have to come back and ask the board for permission to do so. So it's not like you said, like we could just do whatever we want. We don't have that option because we still have to come back through every part of the process. As far as if we decided, whenever we do decide to eventually put anything there, we still have to come through a long process. So I am open to a conversation, but that conversation, we just have nothing as far as what's going to be there. And that's really where their uncomfort level comes from what I'm understanding, because they don't understand what will go there. That's because we don't know what's going to go there. We're just hoping to have it rezoned so that we have opportunities. Because as it sits right now, I don't believe we're allowed to put any retail stores like he said he'd like to see. We're not allowed to do these things because of the zoning that it has.
I think what got this thing started the last time with the Pelican, no zone, that way, because it was not zoned for that to go on. What was that? I didn't hear you. You remember the Pelican snow cone?
Yeah.
Food, well, sort of thing, and they had people over there. That's what I think started this last time. Yeah, because he could go out there because it was on.
I will add too, as far as neighborhood meetings, site plan approvals, major site plan, so if the site is ever to be developed in a commercial way, that does require a neighborhood meeting, our unified development ordinance, so we would have that opportunity at that time for neighborhood, it's a requirement.
All right, what's the wishes of the board? We've had enough discussion.
You have something else about
I just want to say one thing. My name is Brenda Oglesby, 207 West Church Street. We are also what is considered a historic district, which, you know, most everybody in the neighborhood has put money in to keep it as the residential. And as far as the adjacent piece of property, that was grandfathered in. That's been there as long as I've lived in Benson. So that was pre anything. So that's why, I mean, there's no needing us saying anything about the gas station over there because it was already there when we bought the property. But when we bought the property, this was not a commercial lot. So that's all I'm saying.
What's the wishes of the board?
I'll make a motion that we approve the rezoning, based on the criteria 1 through 7 being found in the affirmative.
Any other discussion?
I'm just asking, do you have a motion for?
I did.
Yeah, but didn't recognize.
Why you didn't recognize? Why you ask for a motion? Did you not ask for it?
Not at that time. I just asked for it. You withdraw your motion or you still hold it?
I did all my motion.
All in favor of delaying to the next meeting, say aye. Raise your hand. All in favor of raise your hand.
Now, repeat that question.
All in favor of delaying it to the next meeting for them to get a chance to have a meeting. Isn't that what your motion was?
That was my motion. Yes.
So raise your hand if you're in favor of the motion.
William has a question, I'm sorry, I just thought.
Okay, William.
I just had a question about the uses. I'm looking at the paper that's in the packet. Can you hear me okay?
Just barely.
Okay, I'll try to speak up a little bit. On the packet, the uses that you have listed there, is that 100% of the uses, or is that just a summarization or a generalization of what could be there? If I'm reading this correctly, if we go from what it currently is to a B2, we're only approving about two little things, maybe three at the most. And so I'm asking, or disapproving. I mean, either way, they decide to go to that. But I'm just asking, is that the entire list that is on that piece of paper underneath the form?
No, it's just a summary. I read off all of the uses that are on the permitted land use table. I can read them off again. And I just read commercial uses. So under the B2 general business district, the permitted uses are artist studio gallery, bed and breakfast, food truck, funeral home, gas station with convenience, indoor recreation, office general, office medical, restaurant, retail, neighborhood, self-storage facility, neighborhood service, and veterinarian animal hospital.
That answers my question. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I will add that upper story residential is permitted as well, so that would be allowed in that district.
So we can delay it again to the next meeting.
Yes, if you would
Give
like
them a
to
chance to get
table
together.
to the next meeting.
That is my motion.
All in favor of her motion, say aye. Opposed, no.
No.
How many? Raise your nose. Four.
We're
So there's one.
three.
It's delayed until the next meeting, give them a chance to get together, and we're gonna depend on the two groups to get together and work out whatever differences you have. But it'll be on the agenda next meeting.
Thank
Whose
you.
responsibility will that be, Mayor? Whose responsibility will that be to get a meeting?
Well, between
I mean, if,
the
I'm
speaker
not
and
trying
the
to change
speaker.
anything, so should he not be the one to get in touch with us? Or to send out something?
Get in touch with each other.
Now, what about Jim's motion? Did it go away?
Well,
It's what?
Jim's motion.
she made a motion.
I just moved it to go forward with it tonight.
Consider the approval of the use of town property, formerly the East Street building. Come forward, Kimberly. No, update, town property.
So we came to y'all in the last board meeting for, the sale of some property that the town of Benson owns. I come before you tonight in regards to the North Railroad Street property. We received a bid on this property on February 26th by Barry and Nancy Johnstone Robertson, also known as Nancy Kennedy. She got married. In the amount of $26,890. We got a 5% down payment as requested. We put a public notice out. We did a 10-day.
That's what you're gonna get when you do it.
We did a poster for a 10-day upset. The bid was not upset as of March 8, 2021 was the deadline. And so I'm coming to the board to approve the sale of the North Railroad Street lot. in the amount of $26,890 to Mr. and Mrs. Johnston Robertson, and they would have 30 days to close.
Any questions of him? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Right, I would like to also give you a quick update. We've not heard anything on the town well site. That is still out. I have notified all the property owners around it. It is posted on our website. And then 302 West Woodall Street was also approved by the board for me to attempt to sell. At this point, we are at bid number 5.
Go show me the, is that the last,
For which one? I didn't give you, I just
what's
gave
that address?
302 West Woodall.
302 West Woodall.
Yeah. We are currently, did you have another question?
Well, where is it in?
It's at $34,000 currently. And the upset date that is standing right now is March the 18th.
Where are they posted so people will know when that date expires?
They are posted on our website under the bid opportunity section, and we're posting it in the paper, whatever paper runs fastest to the point of, because we're getting bids about every 3 or 4 days. So whatever paper is running the most recent was either be done or the Benson News. But we are posting them online, and then I am also notifying the bid holder that got upset. I'm notifying them and letting them know that their bid did get upset. So at this point, everybody's been notified if they've been upset. Like I said, we're on our 5th bid as of right now. So, and that's an update on that one. Do y'all have any questions?
Okay, Loretta.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. My name is Loretta Bird, and my home address is 427 Greenleaf Road, Anger, and the office is 122 East Main Street. First of all, I want to let you know Mule Days is on. So that answers the question that I need to ask recently. We decided that the state fair, both the Western and the North Carolina one can occur, that we certainly can have Mule Days. The reason I'm here tonight is to talk about the carnival. The Mule Day Carnival is a very important part of our event. It's been part of the festival for 50 plus years. As you know, when the town purchased the lot owned by Dale Parker to put ball fields, we lost our location for the carnival. We want to carry on the tradition. So I respectfully request that the town allow the chamber to use the lots where the buildings that were recently taken down, plus the parking lot beside those buildings. Number one, we will have insurance, as we always do, and the town will be named an additional insurer, as we did on the previous lot. If any of the grounds or anything is destroyed or damaged, the chamber will make the repairs and pay for them. We always have 6 to 8 deputies at the carnival while it's open, and our hours are usually, we close at 11 at night. Personally, I feel that the parking is going to be less of a problem than it has been over where the old site was, because it's going to be within walking distance from the Grove and also downtown, so families can park and then just walk to the Grove and over to the carnival. Our carnival, which is Michael's Amusement, is the high-end carnival. It is clean and managed well. And surely sometimes there are problems with the staff, but all in all, we've had less problems than any of the carnival companies we've used in the past. I've spoken with Matt Smith and also with Chief Alan Johnson, and they have no issues with us using the property. And lastly, I plan to purchase tickets to give to some of the children who cannot afford to attend the carnival. Many of our children have never and probably will never be able to go to the state fair. And I know that this carnival is important to them, and it's bothered me for years because I was worried that they didn't have the money. So I'm going to start raising some money to buy those children tickets to ride the rides. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have, and I thank you for your attention.
Does anybody have any questions for Loretta?
Where would the power hookups be? Because there's currently none out there right now to accommodate that, right?
That's right. They'll be moved off the old lot, or they were moved and they're in storage at Dixie Denning's warehouse, and we'll have to have them set up. And then we'll have to take them down every year.
Any other questions?
Ain't nobody here from power, knows about power. I'm about to say, because I know we took out a bunch of power, but I didn't know about the transformers and whether we had to upgrade any transformers over there, anything like that. Because of the load that was usually on the lines that were over there on the old field.
There wasn't even a transformer over there that I'm aware of. We had power poles. They were just running to the regular power poles, I think, was the plan. I'm not sure of it.
I know, like at the Grove, there's been a couple of transformers below.
They've been replaced and fixed, thank goodness. But yeah, that was a bad mill days when everything shut down. I remember.
Any other questions? I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, none.
Thank you, board.
Thank you, Loretta. Tim, are you gonna introduce Brian?
Yes, I am. We've already got off the start for a long night, so we'll, I think Brian will do his best to make this as brief as possible, but not to diminish the fact that it's a pretty critical item that needs to be addressed. The item on the board agenda is consider approval of engineering costs for the Mingo Interceptor project. In Brian's presentation, he's going to touch on the Mingo Interceptor, that concept, some of the planning that would be associated with it, the benefits that we've gained from building this project. And he's also going to address a little bit about our current situation in regards to wastewater treatment capacity and the steps we believe we need to do moving forward to I guess, sort of acquire a waiver to be able to keep us moving forward in development opportunities while working towards increasing our treatment capacity. So Brian and Miles is here as well. I'm not sure if y'all tag teaming or what. I'll be here. Okay. Thank you, Tim.
Mr. Mayor, members of the board, again, my name is Brian Johnson, and appreciate the opportunity to come talk to you. We will try to be very brief, but at the same time, as Tim said, it's some important decisions or at least considerations for the town. I'm going to start off and let Miles talk to you about what Tim was mentioning on the wastewater treatment plant capacity, and then I'll come back in and talk to you about the Mingo sewer intersection.
Thank you, Brian. Mayor, board, it's a real pleasure to be in front of you this evening. As Brian mentioned, I'm going to talk a little bit about what's probably likely the town's largest asset in the wastewater treatment plant, and also the current situation of the plant, specifically related to the flows that have been observed and reported there. To start with, though, the plant has a current capacity of 1.9 million gallons per day. This is an average daily flow that is permitted. With that said, some days there are peaks above that. They can exceed well over 1.9 in some instances. This is typically derived from large or heavy rainfall events, which includes inflow and infiltration into the system due to rainwater, and also due to the rainwater and as well as other contributing factors at the plant. Back in 2018, this body allowed for or approved a wastewater asset management plan to be completed. This plan looked at, among other things, flows at the wastewater plant, and the average daily flow at this time was 950 million gallons per day. So that was just 3 years ago. Since then, you can see over the past 30 years, those flows have climbed up to 1.57 million gallons per day, or 82% of the plant's capacity. Just to put that in a little perspective, over the past 12 months, there's been a jump of nearly 17% of flows to get to that 1.57. And in perspective, that's similar to or equivalent to 915 residential homes moving in over the past 12 months. As we know, that's not what happened, but we are observing it at the plant. So your question is probably what caused the spike? Well, we will likely think there's probably two major things. One is the rainfall that occurred over the past year, so that's leading more to inflow and infiltration since that was a very wet year. And two, the pandemic resulted in a ramp up of production at the Berry Global facility due to their production of Lysol and Clorox wipes. But what makes this important, and that's 82%, is that it triggers something at the state level. And this is what we refer to as the 80-90 rule. And what the 80-90 rule is once the state begins monitoring these flows that are being reported on every month by the operators, they're checking to see if flows are exceeding this 80% capacity, which will then require certain actions to be had by the entity that owns the facility. So at 80%, it requires the system to have a plan in place for either a plant expansion or to look at abating or reducing flows from the collection system. At 90%, the rule requires that construction be underway to either expand the plant or to look at various options to dispose of wastewater that might not be through their existing discharge. So as we noted, we have now exceeded this 82% capacity. So by the town tripping over this threshold, the state is going to be sending a letter, likely in the near future, that's going to just notify the town that you have exceeded the 80% and that they are going to be looking for a plan that's going to evaluate and determine a solution to what might be able to do to either one, abate these flows, or two, allow for future growth. This plan is what is commonly referred to as an engineering alternatives analysis, or EAA. And what this plan will ultimately do is, as Tim said, allow the town to continue to accept flows and for new developments and not put a halt on any expansions within the service system or any new developments coming forward. So I just really want to highlight that this EAA is going to be extremely important, and the timeliness of getting this done is going to position the town to continue to grow as we've heard some folks discuss tonight. So again, just want to point out that is an extremely important piece that needs to be addressed. Another note on the EAA is that back in 2007, Wooten looked at a study that evaluated multiple alternatives for the wastewater treatment plant. Of those, looked at some expansions as well as diversion of flows to other entities. And some other ones that were looked at were land application, possibly reclaimed water that would limit the amount of water going into Hannah Creek, which is where the discharge is. So with that said, there's a good start that's already been made. And a lot of that information from that report back in 2007 just needs to be updated and reevaluated. So what Tim has asked us to do is take a look at this 2007 study and determine what it might take to update it for use as an EAA response for an evaluation to the state to meet this requirement. In the meantime, we will be pulling together a letter that we will provide to Tim that he can then send to the state on behalf of the town to outline the plans of what the town is going to do once that letter is received. So we're trying to get ahead of that as best as possible. So moving down to the recent actions and things that it possibly, or not possibly, but may help are some different funded projects or pending funding projects. So back in February, the town did receive notification that it was awarded a merger regionalization grant. This was from the state's Division of Water Infrastructure. This body approved to move forward with. And what this funding or this grant money will do is, or the purpose of it is to evaluate potential for a regional system with the city of Dunn. That's the way the application is structured. So ultimately, this study will look at disposal options, similar to what's been done in 2007, and also similar to what's going to be required for an EAA. So it's going to complement very well the overall EAA process. So again, this is one action, one project that's going to continue to help addressing this 80% trigger. The second one here is the wastewater improvements project. This was a low interest loan that was also recently awarded from the same Division of Water Infrastructure. And this is a construction project. It is to make some improvements in the collection system, which which I believe was identified in the wastewater asset management plan as the top priority area that needed improvements and rehabilitation. This area is historically flooded, and this project will address those issues, and in turn will reduce the I&I entering the system, thus resulting in lesser flow to the plant. As part of that project, there's some construction work at the facility itself. These looks at three major items that have been identified by plant staff as well as Tim, we've discussed, that really just need improvements. They are not even at the current capacity of 1.9. They're not capable of handling flow without severely constraining the treatment of the facility. So it will look at those replacements and will be beneficial to the plant regardless if any future expansion plans are determined through an EAA. And lastly, is a CDBG grant. The town has applied for this funding. This is a collection system project or a collection system application to do work in the system. And we expect the results of this application to be sometime in April to see if it will be awarded. Again, this project will push forward or evaluate and improve areas in the collection system and improving the I&I components at the plant, and fortunately or hopefully reduce some of that influent flow. And with that, I'll let Brian take over to discuss this Chicopee very little.
Thank you, Miles. All right, so Miles has been talking sort of big picture on the wastewater plant. Of course, that's, as Miles says, the largest asset really in town, particularly, especially with the wastewater system. But, if you want to bring that down a little bit, one level down, but really it relates to the same two items, rainwater this past year and Berry Global. We've got an issue that we need to address, and that is out there at the Berry Global facility. Of course, Berry Global, y'all know, is the largest wastewater user in town. And it pumps its wastewater through a town-owned line that goes up Chicopee Road. Well, the town also owns a pump station it's really on Market Street, but it's right there adjacent to the facility. It also pumps into that same line that Berry Global uses. It's been, throughout the years, it's had some ups and downs, but it's worked. Okay, well, 2020 really shined the light on the situation, and I think Tim has provided y'all some updates on that. But what's happened is essentially the pumping capacity from both facilities, the town pump station and Berry Global, has limited. And of course, that's not good for either the town or Berry Global. And Berry Global is saying, hey, we can't push out as much product as we need, and we're in a pandemic. And the town's saying, well, we've got this wastewater, we've got to pump from the folks that need the wastewater system. So there's a real dilemma there, and of course, the town's been looking at several options and then looking at some, what I would say, some short-term solutions to avoid any kind of, wastewater spills or anything like that. Unfortunately, none of that has occurred. But those solutions really aren't sustainable. So really what the town, I think, and the reason, Tim wanted us to take a look at some longer term, near term, but also long-term solutions. And that's what brings us to the Mingo Interceptor sewer. And you can probably barely make it out on the screen, and maybe you can't even make it out on the screen, but just follow with what I'm saying here, I guess. The big white area in the photograph is very global. And if you look just to the south of that, you'll see a blue line. And that blue line represents a brand new gravity sewer line along Mingo Creek. Okay? That sewer line effectively would allow the Chicopee Road pump station, town-owned pump station, to be redirected down to that gravity sewer and essentially take it off that force main. And it would allow Berry Global to continue using that force main, and therefore it separates the town from it, essentially. So we think that's a good long-term solution. What would happen with that gravity line is it would flow down to a new pump station, which is the red dot on your screen, which that's actually on Massengill Farm Road all the way east of I-95. So, and then ultimately that would pump up likely to the Hampton Inn pump station, and then make its way on down to the wastewater plant. So a couple of other benefits, though, that I think is important to note about this line. It does address the near-term situation with Berry Global in the town. But longer term, it also helps the town by removing another pump station. You've got a pump station on Kings Court, and this particular project would remove that pump station. So you're basically going to take away 2 old pump stations and replace it with a brand new one. The other thing it would do, it would allow service to a corridor in your town, in the southern part of town, that is currently not being served. So you've got land on the east of I-95 there that would be served by this, and you also have land to the west of 301 that would be served by this project. So again, it's a short, near-term, I would say, solution to get Berry Global in the town some relief, but then also it provides some long-term benefits. So we think that this would be a good project to explore. And you see there the estimated cost is $3.6 million. I would caveat that we've not studied this. That's actually what we're here tonight to discuss, is the option to study this a little further. But just a high level, we think about $3.6 million. And we have spoken with USDA, which is a funding agency y'all have used in the past. That they are available, funds are available. Likely it would be loaned, so just grants are hard to come by, but at the same time, they're certainly going to look at that and evaluate that. So that is the Mingo Interceptor Chicopee Road Lift Station project. And the last slide, I would just say, just to kind of summarize next steps to consider would be, going back to what Miles said, begin the process of that engineering alternatives analysis to avoid curbing any kind of development. Number 2 is make a determination on the grant funds and the loan funds that currently have been awarded. And then finally, number 3 is move ahead or consider moving ahead with the Mingo Sewer project. So with that, Tim, that wraps me up. I'll be glad to answer any questions that y'all have.
Where would Chicopee or Berry Plastic, where would they tie in at? As far as, they tie in right there where our pump stations are, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's all technology, man.
To answer your question, they can go one of 2 ways. Likely, the option would be they can continue to go where they're going right now. They don't have to change. Another option that we need to look at a little more is, could they redirect a little bit of their flow or all their flow down to the new lift station? So it would connect, if we redirect it down to the new lift station, it would essentially connect on the Market Street side of the plant, of the facility, and then it would come around, follow I-95 down to the Mingo Creek sewer.
Is it a force main all the way from there to wastewater treatment plant?
Yes, sir.
It goes to the gravity.
It'll go to the Hampton Inn pump station, and then it'll repump to the plant from there. And one second, I think this map here. So if you see the red dot down there, that's Massonville Farm Road, that's the new lift station.
Right
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And then if you go up Massonville Farm Road, that's where a new force main would pump, the new pump station all the way up to the Hampton Inn.
Right.
And then from there, it would repump, just like it always, it does currently, over to across, Highway 50.
How old is the lines on that, where that pump station is at, where it currently feeds? And it feeds into Chincoteague Road, right?
In 1968.
Our best interest, if we do this, to get Barry to reroute theirs, so we can do away with that.
One option we're gonna look at is exactly what you said. The other would be to replace that 1968 force main. It's about half a mile from from Barry's facility on into town.
Yeah.
So you give them a new force main essentially. So, because right now, that's an old force main for the wastewater system. And I know there's been some, breaks and things like that in the past out there.
So how far does the force main go from that pumping station? It feeds back that way?
It does. It hits gravity pretty much right in front of the Legacy Tracer Park.
Wow.
Yeah, it's about half a mile.
Okay.
Any other questions?
What is if we finance the 3.6 million or whatever, what kind of years would that be?
USDA is a 40-year term, so it would be, I think the interest rates right now are around 2%, so they're very, very good, very attractive, and they're 40-year term.
Well, I thought that loan was 0%.
You may be confusing with the SRF loan that was awarded to us.
How would this help the wastewater treatment?
Yeah, that's a good question. It would, the only way I can say it could help, and you guys can step in, is we would get rid of 2 really old lift stations, both wells deep, that they're taking in groundwater. It would address some needs in the existing gravity system, so it would reduce some I&I in that area. So there's a lot of groundwater that's getting into our system in that area, like much of our system around town. But it would correct those issues in this project. So ultimately, you would reduce some flows to the plant, or at least some unnecessary flows.
Just curious, because I've seen that pumping truck out there at that lift station quite a few times. You had to guess in a year's time how much do we spend just on trying to maintain that lift station?
I was going to bring that up in wrapping this up. We're currently on track over the past 2 months. We're spending roughly $10,000 a month to delicately balance the access to that single force main to be able to serve Very Global as well as ourselves and prevent any spills from either of us. And when I say a delicate balance, it is a delicate balance. There are times during extremely wet weather that we've had to have people literally manning the station, pump truck hauling. We brought in different pumps to more efficient pumps to basically better balance the run and off time to get Very Global the time that they need. We both have been very, very close to spilling multiple times during this situation.
Do we have anyone outside of Johnson County tying into any of these lines? Using?
No, sir. Okay. No, sir. No one on this line. Our wastewater plant, we do take flows from Johnston County, from 4 Oaks, and some from the other area.
realistically, with growth, because we're not gonna address this with abatement, that's not gonna be the approach. With growth, we're looking at futuristically addressing major expansion out there at the wastewater treatment plant. Are we not? Much greater than $3.8 million.
$11 million.
We just, as we discussed in our board retreat, we've got, multiple critical needs, in our infrastructure system. And, they're extremely pressing matters during this time because of the interest in growth in this area. And the fact that we're, getting into the area of limitations where the state has the authority to impose some development.
Well, we're already there, aren't we? You're the 82, we're 82 there, so the state's in it.
They're in, and but between 80 and 90, you're in some room that the state will work with. As I understand it, once you get to 90, they're not so forgiving.
That's correct. The state will send that letter that I referred to, and if you tell them, here's our plan, we're working on this EAA, they will work with you on that. The statutes say that the director can do that, and as long as you're showing good progress towards it, the fact that this or similar evaluation was done 13 years ago, that's a great head start of showing that to the state. So here's what we looked at before, we know we need to update it. And that's going to allow future, I'll bet smaller flows coming in, but again, new flows and new potential for growth while that plan is being pulled together and ultimately a construction project.
Well, I think what they're looking for tonight is approval to do the engineering work on this other side.
That's exactly right, and that's the preliminary engineer report and environmental assessment. So that's a portion of the engineering. That's the necessary component to get started with. That's one of the most critical parts that would be needed for pursuing any funding opportunities. So what I'm here for ultimately tonight, and what's on the agenda is to ask for approval to go ahead and authorize this group to go ahead and get started with the engineering.
Yeah, I understand that, and I'm in favor of that too, but again, while we're here, and we're talking about something that should have been done a while back already, okay? And we're also talking about all of this growth that we're not just anticipating, I mean, realistic is here. And from what I hear, based on your presentation, not a whole lot of hope with grant monies and other ancillary ways of obtaining this money. So we probably, this town's better be preparing to obligate themselves to some great financial concern that's coming down the pipeline. Is that fair to say?
I would agree with that. I would just say that when you're starting to talk about a project that size, though, I don't want to give any, false hope or anything like that, but I do think there may be some more opportunities in that case for grant dollars, because grant dollars really hinge on how high your water and sewer bills get. In this case, your sewer bill. The higher that gets, the more favorable you might get in the grant, window. So we'll just have to see. We don't know. I agree with you 100%.
What I'm saying, the safe bet though is for all of us to start thinking this is on top of the wave. This the next wave, and so you better be making arrangements to be financing this project. And we're talking about massive expansion at the wastewater treatment plant.
And I think what I'm hearing is sort of the mindset of hope for the best, plan for the worst. I mean, you sort of, I think it's fair to assume we're going to have to take on some significant financial obligations, but obviously we will continue to work through all possible channels for better funding opportunities, but ultimately there will be some financial obligation on the thing. We're not gonna find anybody that just handles millions and millions of dollars to tackle these issues.
I looked it up and 2.6 million or 2% over 40 years is 10,900.
Any other questions?
That's what we spend in 1 month dealing with this broken out.
I'll entertain a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no.
$10,901 a month. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kimberly?
Great. So, we're bringing before you tonight the consideration of approval for the PK Biz Fieldhouse General Construction Contract. We advertised this on November 20th. We had a pre-bid meeting on December 9th. We had questions due on December 18th. We followed up with 3 memos. We had no addendums to the project. The bid opening was January 15th, however, we only received 2, so we had to extend the bid date out again. So the final bid opening was February 1st. We received 3 complete bid packages. You'll see in your bid packet where the dollar amounts fell. They fell anywhere from 900,000 to over $1 million. So we took the lowest bidder, and we had very many discussions. We did some engineering value engineering with him. We were able to get it down to $789,696 for the construction of the field house and sidewalk, the pump station that's going to be needed, or the sewer system that's going to be needed, and some grading around that area. We do have Part F money, however, Matt's going to talk after me, so don't get sticker shock on what I'm about to say. But I'm estimating if we don't get any other funding in, any other donors that give us money for this project, $258,000 would come out of fund balance to complete this portion of the project. However, Matt has been knocking on some doors and talking to some people, so I'm gonna let him talk to you first before y'all move forward with your decision.
Yeah, this has been an emotional roller coaster for me, especially, but I've been talking to some donors. We've secured a $25,000 donation from the Lions Club for field naming rights. I've also been approached by an individual who wishes to remain anonymous at this point for another $25,000 for field naming rights. I've also sat with a individual who works for insurance agents, national insurance agents, that have to put money into low income areas. And I've said, just so happens we have a project in a low income area. So I've met with him, had lunch with him a couple weeks ago, and we're gonna get back together and start talking about that. And we're in talks again with another substantial donor, which I don't want to say a name now, but it is a tried and true donor, and I think we could get quite a bit of funding from that person as well. I've never approached this job to make money. I've always approached it to provide the most we can for the least amount of money taken from the town, the least amount of money taken from the residents. But I am going to throw some numbers at you now that hopefully will ease your sticker shock or your mind a little bit. As of right now, today, we're making between $900 and $1,000 per week in gym rentals. We have a Hispanic basketball league that plays every Sunday. They give us $550 every week, plus other rentals that happen throughout the week. They played before COVID hit. They were playing approximately 40 Sundays a
a year, and I don't expect that to change. Again, when the fields are complete, before COVID hit, we were having tournaments, 20 teams. When the fields are complete, the field house is done, we'll have 20 to 30 teams coming in. And I don't know, I know Max and Jim, baseball parents, are psycho when it comes to baseball and softball, and they'll spend money and bring money in. A 20-team tournament is a minimum of 10 to 12 kids per team. Each kid's bringing at least one parent. There are several coaches. You're talking a 20-team tournament at an absolute minimum of 500 people per weekend. And that's, we'll make a couple $1,000s per weekend per tournament. And then that's also 500 plus people coming to town every weekend. We have a tournament to eat and rent the fields and to stay in a hotel. And those are just some of the things that's coming up. So once it's done, we're gonna make a lot of money. Like I said, I've never approached this job to make money, but we're gonna make a lot of money. And I think anything that the town puts in extra now will be easily paid back in a short amount of time. And so the project will be a $1.5 million project, and the town will have very little into it. That's what I wanted to say.
You were counting the Optimus money.
I cannot count the Optimus money because that was considered in the grant originally. That was part of our matching funds in the grant. And honestly, I believe that the Dynamite Trailer Little League field would be an awesome addition. So before you go, I got the number up the back of your shirt. So that's what we're looking at. Is there any questions for me on anything?
Anybody have a question, Matt?
Here's one.
Yes, sir.
Matt, the estimate $258,000 coming out of fund balance, is that just for the overage of the concession stand, or is that what we think we're going to pull out with this entire project? How are we looking at other bids? Are we running over bids for other projects going out there as well?
That's the estimation for the two current bids that we have going out right now. So we had to pull out the field from these. We had to pull out the two fields from this particular bid. However, we feel that we can get one field paid for out of operating funds next year. We're working on that in the budget, and then we still have quite a bit of money of CARES Act money. So I was going to come to the board later and see if we could use some of that money to use on the other field. So we have some other funding sources that we can look towards, but that is the estimation that I have on the grading of the multi-use field and then the current construction for this contract for the general constructor of the field house.
What's the figure you said you had it down to now?
What now?
What did you say the figure you had it down to now, 700?
I got him down to 789,696 with value engineering, and we actually gave him some names of our subs, like as far as concrete and stuff, and they were able to give him a better price than what his normal sub would have given. So he's going to use our local sub to do all the concrete. So I was able to get him down to that. And of course, if we run into anything for the project, we can lower it. We'll obviously try. But right now, that's what we're looking at.
Do we have any estimate of what this entire project is going to cost us over what we had initially budgeted?
The 258 is the number right now that I have on what's going to come out of the Part F project itself. And then what did you estimate to be?
For the grading, the two extra ball fields was I had in there $52,000 in the grant itself. But I think I don't think it's going to be that much. I think it's going to be less than that. Because I don't remember when we took the fields out, it didn't really change that grading that much. So I don't think it would be.
Any other questions?
Kim, so the funding that we have for the CARES Act can be used towards this project?
The CARES Act, yeah, I mean, it's in a project, so our obligation to the state is done on the CARES Act. We use salaries from general fund. We use salaries from police and fire. The fire department wants to put a fence up, we're gonna use that money to help them put that fence up and kind of to segregate the fire department from, you know, parks and recreation fields. Other than that, I mean, we haven't really used it too much.
So when does receiving money for that, when is it? Is there like a deadline?
So our deadline for the Part F project is October, but we have talked with our representative from Part F. She knows we're gonna be asking for an extension of 1 year. She said that's gonna be no issue to get a 1 year extension on that. So with that extension, it would be October 2020. And then if we have to go for 6 months, we can.
Who's
we
the
can, but we don't want
contractor
to.
you're gonna select?
ACH Constructors would be, who we would select for this. That's who we're recommending to the board. And he is, estimating a 5.5 month lead on getting the building done. So it's a quick, I mean, for him, it's a quick turnaround on the weather holds. But
If somebody make a motion,
I'll make a motion
CH
to approve.
contract. Any other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
Thank you.
All right, the January financials.
all right. So at the end of January, our revenues were at 61.41%. Our expenditures were at 56.55. I gave you all a list of some of our higher accounts. If you have any questions, I'd be willing to answer them for you.
Anybody have any question on the financials? I entertain a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Okay. And then,
The tax memo,
yes. So in the January meeting, I believe it was, Dean asked me to get a list of people that had not paid their taxes. And so I waited until March 1st to ask for that information. So you will see past your financial records. The county has sent me the list of people who have yet to pay their taxes. She did inform me that this was going to hit the newspaper. It should have hit the newspaper either this week or next week. That usually picks up on revenues once that happens. They're also have not been as aggressive on garnishments because of COVID. She said that, however, they were going to start being more aggressive. They were going to start getting garnishments out this month, and so we should see a boost in revenues for that as well. So you have that list that was requested. I can ask for it again if y'all want me to. I would say probably wait until May before we ask for it again. But I can get that again if y'all would like.
so they say they're not garnishing any wages or anything.
They haven't been, but they're going to start. So, did y'all have any questions on the tax memo? And then the final thing, it's not on there, but it has to do with financials. In January, I sent an email out to all the department heads with their budget sheets to estimate what the next 6 months is going to look like for them, and then start giving me some requests for what they need in their budget in the upcoming year. So later on in the meeting, we're going to ask you guys for 3 more meetings to happen the 4th Thursday of the next 3 months, so we can really drill down and talk about budget. I would love to have the budget approved at least the first meeting in June. I would love it if it was the last meeting in May. So I want to go ahead and pass this out to you guys. This is not going to look like anything you've ever gotten before. This is what we actually work off of. These are our worksheets. Usually when the board gets it, it's a much cleaner version. You will see on the right-hand margin of the paper all of our notes, some of the requests, some of how I keep up with what people are asking. I have just a snapshot view. I have asked if we could increase the tax rate by 1 penny back to 54 cents. You will see that we are making a strive to
realign salaries like we were last year. We started with more of the general fund, myself, Fred, Scott, people who worked in all aspects of the town to all three essential departments. But we have the same thing in public works where you have members of the public works department working on streets, which is a Fund 10 job, and then also working in water and sewer. So you will see that we have additionally tried to realign those salaries as well. 1/3 coming out of the general fund and 2/3 coming out of Fund 30. So you'll see that in here. We have asked for an increase in the stormwater fee so we can continue to do fixed drainage in the town from $2.50 to $3. And then there's some equipment needs in here that you'll see. When I was working on salaries themselves, ultimately Fred is the budget officer, so I asked what his recommendation was on salaries. At first go, the recommendation is a 3% COLA and up to a 5% merit. Now, I'm not saying today that that's what is going to be the final go on salaries, but because Scott, after the board retreat, is looking at a salary study for the town based off of y'all's comments from the meeting. So it may change, but right now that's what's plugged into the budget. So if you have any questions between now and the next board meeting, I'm more than willing to sit down and talk with y'all. I've had multiple conversations with department heads. I feel confident that I can probably answer most of your questions as far as their needs, but I'm also willing to bring them in and have a conversation with you as well. And then we'll start preparing for the next board meeting to start going over the departments at a time. I think that's probably a good starting point, so we're not here all night talking about budget. I'm gonna pass these out for y'all.
Let's back up to the approval of purchase order over $10,000. I'll entertain a motion to approve that.
Which one is this? That's gonna be Thursday, right?
Yeah, we hadn't got there. I hadn't got to that yet.
16,387.15.
This is for approval of rifles for the police department. This is grant funded. However, he has to have the PO on file. So I think it's gonna take, what's the lead time on the rifles? The lead time is 9 months. This will at least get us to be able to order the rifles, and then once the rifles come, it is reimbursed. So you will probably see this come out of the next budget, but you'll also see the grant money come in the next budget. But as a standard act, we have to get the first order approved. It's over the $10,000 limit for Mr. Fred, so we need the board to approve it. And then I do have one more that came up today. Y'all want to do them all together, or you want to do them separately?
Let's do them all together.
Okay.
Same department.
No, it's a different department.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Wastewater treatment plant had another ditch oxidator go down. This is, I sent, just like I did the last one, if y'all recall, in the beginning of the fiscal year, we had the same thing happen, and the insurance paid for the repair of it. So we send the claim in, we had an insurance adjuster come out. Basically, it's just deteriorated. It's just an old system. So insurance has approved liability of the repair. We got a quote from Clearwater yesterday in the amount of $53,900. It is going to be 100% reimbursable from insurance, but I have to get a PO so Clearwater can start the work. So it's over the $10,000 limit. I apologize, I don't have it in y'all's packet, but if y'all can approve that, I can get that PO going tomorrow. Those are my two.
I'll entertain a motion on the police department.
I'll make a motion.
16,387.15.
I'll make a motion for both of them to approve.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
That's it for me. Thank y'all.
Consider the approval of 3 additional board meetings for budgeted purchase. You can see the 3 dates, March 25th, April 22nd, and May 20th.
March 25th.
This is what.
And as the board, as we discussed during the retreat, we would need some additional meetings to go ahead and do some workshops, definitely focused on the budget for the upcoming year. These 3 dates are for your approval, and we should be able to get that budget approved before June.
I'll entertain a motion.
I make the motion.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, Clean Water Education Partnership, Fred.
I can keep my seat and flip down the papers here that I have in front of me. We have the memorandum partnership agreement for the Clean Water Education Partnership services provided by the Diamond J Council of Governments. And what they've had as far as the program that we would like to participate in this year is a clean water education program that assists the local government with educational outreach tasks that include, but is not limited to, I'll jump down to item C there that you have in front of you on the first page, making available for downloading from their website outreach materials to target audiences and distribute materials at in-person or digital community events to educate populace about clean water initiatives that we might want to participate in. It might even include flyers and videos that we can post online, etc. We can access their mass media program for these types of educational initiatives. We've been talking about water in general. Clean water is also something that we want to be talking to our communities about as well. So videos would target common pollutants that we might be able to avoid and thereby be good stewards of the land and the waters. Provides outreach materials for target audiences that describe those target pollutants and the likely sources and impact on water quality as examples. So for our MS4 stormwater permit, a program such as this, Department of Environmental Quality, I believe it is, looks at our program to inform citizens of impacts on water quality as part of our permit that we have educational requirements, meet educational requirements in order to keep that permit accurate. So the bottom of page 161 there, you see that the local government agrees to pay TJ for the services provided based on a fee schedule, which is the last page of this packet. And for Benson, that cost would be $2,146 for the entire year. And you can tap into educational materials pretty much as we like to. And so I talked very briefly with Tyler about some possible media events that we might be able to hold. To Tim as well. Teams gear up to participate in this kind of initiative and keep our program. I'll ask the board to approve the agreement that you have before you.
Does anybody have any questions for Fred? I'll entertain a motion.
And I'll make that motion that we approve.
All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners.
Town manager's report.
Back to town manager report. First, I want to thank Derek and Tyler. They're both in the building right now for their hard work on the Black History celebration. That went over very well. Even more than we had anticipated. They did some great work on that, and I wanted to make sure that we recognize them for that. I'm not sure how many views we have now. It's close to 1,000 now. It's over 1,000 now. So we've touched 1,000 members of the community in terms of taking a look at the video / documentary on Joyce Blunt. So I thank them for that. On April 2nd, which is the day after April Fool's, all non-emergency town facilities will be closed for Good Friday. And, with that, that is my report, other than what I emailed you a little earlier this evening.
Town attorney,
I don't have anything to add, late night, but Mr. Mayor, any question to me?
Commissioner Max.
Nothing about it.
Yes, the lighting on Fourth Street, for some reason those lights continue to just go off. So is there something wrong with those lights?
I can, are the area lights in Porter street lights? Okay, I can get Glenn to look at
Something
it.
is wrong with it. I think the first one is on the left side as you're turning down. And then the last one, and it looks like, they make this noise like they're sizzling and then they'll go out and they'll stay out. It's like it's constant.
Okay.
Did it come back on after they step?
Yeah.
Come back on and try to repeat the process?
Yeah.
Yeah, still with that,
Timer might be off or that Ethernet might be on it, I'm messing it up. I'll get Glenn to look at it.
And it's like both of them.
Okay.
Okay. I'm good.
I had a call this afternoon from Mr. Jose Micas, regarding the tract property between Lincoln Street and 50 Highway, this little triangular parcel. I think W.C. Adams owns a portion of it, Jose owns a portion of it. Anyway, obviously, we've done something recently out that the town has, I'm not sure what we've done. But, does anyone?
What street was that?
If you go down Lincoln, just across from W.C. Adams' house, there's a little triangular piece of property between Lincoln Street and 50 Highway. I'm not sure what the town has done there recently, but anyway, he said he had contacted the town 2 or 3 times, talked with someone who said they would have the appropriate person call him. He's never had a call back. So just encourage you to follow up. Can't even tell you what agency or what department that comes from, but he was a little peeved about that. I think he said he had even been over here one time and was promised that someone would call him and no one had.
I think y'all doing some sewer repair work on Lincoln Street. I've seen locate tickets for Lincoln Street.
Yeah, there's 2 building lots there that,
Oh, that ain't where he's talking about then.
No, this is the little triangular piece where,
out at Benson, Hardy, Lincoln, and 50.
yeah.
What's the question?
What have we been doing there? What is it that the town has done?
We keep it mowed because there's a town of Benson sign out in that point. And I've always understood that if we had some responsibility to keep that space maintained because we were allowed to place that town of Benson entrance sign on it or something like that. So we keep it mowed. We've done a little bit of drainage improvement across it because
Recently?
probably in the last month.
I think that's probably what it is then, but somebody needs to contact him because he has a concern with something the town did. He wasn't overly specific, he just was concerned that nobody called him back. I don't know what agency.
Who was?
Jose Micas. He's, I can't tell you his address. He's on Lincoln Street. Mahiquez.
I don't know who you reached out to. That's the first I've heard of it.
What?
I said, I'm not sure if he reached out, who he got a hold of, but that's the first I've heard of it. But we can find him. I'll be glad to reach out.
Check with him.
Say it.
I forgot. Okay, I've got a question for you guys. I had a person ask me last week, when did the bids happen again for grass cut? When is that?
Our, the last time it was awarded, we had, that contract had an option to renew 4 additional years. So we're entering the second year.
So there's one, until somebody leaves, they will do.
And then until they leave, or I guess in some way we ask them not to return.
So it's going to be good.
So at the most, I'd say 3 more years out. But it could be potentially at the beginning of the end.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to.
Man.
Okay, William.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, and I don't know if this falls under Tim or if it falls under Aaron or whether Tim can hear me.
Yeah.
Okay, I received a phone call this morning. I apologize, I'm not in town, so I've not been able to investigate it in person yet, but I received a phone call from a citizen this morning, about North Winnicott Street that runs between basically Burger King and behind the middle school that goes out to 301. Apparently, according to the citizens, there's a couple of properties out on that street that trash is just thrown everywhere. He said they've been trying to find every day for weeks now. Nobody's been out there to clean it up or take care of anything. So, if there's anything we can do to check on that and see if we can get that cleaned up, I appreciate it.
I think he's talking about the property that's, in the county.
Honeycutt Street is a state road, but the state hasn't done near as much litter pickup as they typically do. We've been committing about a day a week to the entrance of the town. Honestly, Honeycutt has not been one of the sites we've hit thus far, but we'll get out there and check it out. Take care of it.
I thought there was a lot of dumping being done out there.
And it may be.
Well, I don't know if he's talking about where the mobile home, where they're currently doing a lot of demo out there. and stuff like that.
It could be stuff getting lost from that property out on the roadway. I'm not sure. We'll check it out. It's something that we can help take care of. Yeah.
I'll entertain a motion. Go into closed session.
I made a motion that we go into closed session and everybody knows.
Take a 2-minute break. Let's make it fast.
2 minutes.
How long is closed session going to take?
As long as you make it.
Well, it's 9:30 now.
I'm not eating.